Mrs. Johnson should be coming on.
Thank you.
Beth Ann, does Eli have his cell?
Yes, he is on with us.
Eli's on.
Okay, great. All right.
We're set.
Okay. Rick, we can get started.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Recording in progress.
Welcome, commissioners, staff, and public to the 1137th regular meeting of the Atlantic City Housing Authority and Urban Redevelopment Agency. This is the regular meeting for the month of February 2023. Notice of this meeting has been properly published and posted in accordance with the requirements of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Excuse me. If I may, moving on to item number 2, a roll call. Commissioner Devenish.
Present.
Commissioner Dorsey.
Present.
Commissioner Gabay. Commissioner Gabay. Thank you. Commissioner Hussain. Commissioner Hussain. No response. Commissioner Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner Tweedle.
Present.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Present.
Thank you. We have 6 members present, which is a quorum for business. If everyone would now join, please, in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
And
one nation,
nation.
under God, indivisible, with liberty
And
and
justice for all.
Thank you. Moving now to item 3 on the agenda, public participation.
Is there anyone there in the public who wish to speak?
Yes, I would like to speak.
Okay, could you state your name, please?
Good afternoon, everyone, Chair, Commissioners, everyone else. My name is Deirdre Brock. I'm the Stanley Homes manager. I just have a praise report. I call it a praise report because I'm no longer feeling like I'm stressed. So that's a praise report for me. I'm just happy to announce the progress made here at Stanley. We have contractors on site daily. We have plumbing contractors making sure that there's no sewer or heating issues. We also have separate contractors who are specifically targeting occupied units. Then we have a set of contractors who are only doing vacant units. Also, we have Alris who are concentrating on the mold units. We have a list. I had a list of rodent complaints sent over to our exterminating company. With the help of Durwood Pinkett, our project manager, who's overseeing the contractors, I think that Stanley's going to be okay. We still have a long way to go, but we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be fine. Also, I just want to say thank you to Yolanda for single-handedly giving the credits to Stanley Homes. We finally got that taken care of. She took 2 days to do that, and the notices started going out yesterday. So I want to thank Yolanda Peterson for that. And that's all I have.
Ms. Brock, could you state, I'm not sure who Yolanda is. I'm assuming she works in the office, but could you state her name, please?
Yes,
Or-
Yolanda Peterson is tenant accounting.
Okay. And she works in the office with you?
She works on the 17th floor.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Brock, for that. And
welcome.
yeah, just to add to that, Ms. Brock, the executive committee met several times, and starting in, I guess you could say October, November, about how we can better the authority. And one of the things that we came up with was to bring a consultant in to take over the city report and deal with the issues with the judge. We did not want to put that on you or any other staff members. We wanted you to be able to be a property manager and not add that extra step stress to your day-to-day. So I appreciate you coming on stating that. And as we discussed in executive committee, I hope he can definitely be a tremendous help to you, because it is definitely too much for one person to do, and definitely would not be fair for the property manager to have to handle all of that. So I really appreciate your comments.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that as well. Thank you for the help.
Yes. Is anyone else? I see a telephone number 732 with a hand raised.
Yeah, hi, it's Charlie Cradaville. I'm the editor of New Brunswick Today. I wanted to express a concern about the way the last meeting ended, at least for me. I was kicked off on both of my devices. I believe this is a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. I raised it to your attorney immediately, and I never got a response. So I just wanted to understand, if you're going into closed session today, please don't do that again. Are you gonna kick people out of the meeting again?
Okay, is there anything else you would like to add?
Yes, one other question.
Chair,
It's a
Chair,
simple.
Yes,
Chair,
Mr.
sorry,
Manfredi?
I apologize, Mr. Credible. I did get your email. Just wanted you to know, and I did respond to you immediately afterwards at the last meeting, and indicated that I had contacted Ms. Shample to reopen it, and I did ask if you could confirm back. That was sent at 6 p.m. I just wanted to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, I did not receive such an email. So maybe if you could double check what address you sent it to and follow up, or forward it, send it again. But yeah, I didn't receive it. The other question.
Just so you know, I responded to the email you sent to me, so I'll resend it to you now so you can see.
And we
Thank
were
you.
all kicked off. It wasn't just Mr. Kravitz. We were all kicked off of that and had to log back in.
I see. Well, yeah, technology can be tricky sometimes. The other question I just wanted to ask straight up: has the Atlantic City Housing Authority received any subpoenas this year?
Mr. Manfredi?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a matter we can answer. If we had, it would be confidential. So it's a legal matter that could not be otherwise responded to.
Yes.
Not necessarily a confidential matter, but if you did receive one that's confidential, I understand. I'll pursue this further via the Open Public Records Act, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board.
Thank you. Michelle Post from the press?
Yeah, I had a question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding the report that Deirdre gave. Was she talking about all the refunds are now out to everyone for that November rent refund? Is that what she was referring to?
Mr. Clark, Mr. Volpe, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, sure, Chair. Yes, that is what she was referring to.
Okay, good. So then I had been told that the refund that each person had to speak to the office to get their refund. Is that now no longer going to be the policy, that when you do issue these refunds, they'll be automatic?
They're not refunds, Michelle, they're credits.
Okay. But will they be automatic going forward if you do decide to give any further?
I'm not sure of the question.
Well, I had been told that that each person had to make and I believe it was you, Ms. Marshall, who told me that
Yes.
that the office had to talk to each tenant before issuing the refund. Will that no longer be the excuse me, the policy going forward?
Well, when you and I spoke at the time, we were discussing whether or not, being in between months, speaking with each resident to see which month they would like to credit. And I had given you, remember, I'm not an employee of the housing authority. I'm a board member, I'm a commissioner. And so I'm not a part of the day-to-day operations. I'm not familiar with the technical, the software, that sort of thing. So I do often and always try my best to answer your question when you do call. I always answer my phone or text back. And the information I gave you at that time was something that we had discussed in executive session. Mr. Clark, so will each resident have to come in, or is that something, because that's a technical question with the accounting system that we have on how we can handle those credits?
Yeah, correct. I can only speak to what we did, Chair and Michelle, is that the tenant accounting system was credited. So every person received a credit. They did not have to contact the office.
Oh, okay, because there were folks who came to the last city council meeting saying they had not gotten their credits.
So I don't know if you heard Ms. Brock when she spoke earlier. She said that it actually was in process, so that she had just finished it.
Yeah,
So
no, I understand that. I'm just wondering what the policy will be going forward, because it did take longer than I think people expected.
Hey, Commissioner Gabay, Michelle, usually in the past, it always been the same way. Usually in the past, like, because we had the same problem last year, 2 years ago, a year ago, when we had the same thing. Usually they give us credit. I'm a commissioner, but I'm also a resident. So what they do, they give a credit to our account. So like it will be like a 1 month credit. So whatever, if you already pay your rent, the following month you won't have to pay your rent. So it would just automatically just kick in that you won't owe nothing. So whatever your rent is, you would get that amount credited to your account. So for example, for me, my credit would get kicked in for January because I didn't pay my January month rent. So I automatically get that, that credit will cover my January rent. So it usually like just kick in for whatever month that you did not pay for. It was just credited to the account. I don't know if that clarified your question.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And then I just wanted to ask, do you believe that you'll be able to make that March 14th deadline for fixing the outstanding issues that the judge gave you the March 14th?
That's absolutely always the goal. I don't know, Mr. Clark or Rick.
Rick, I think, Michelle, I don't know if that's an accurate statement about fixing all of the issues.
Yeah, and this Rick Dillacre, the proceedings the other day before Judge Warner were dealing with 8 specific tickets the code enforcement had written. And those were all resolved, and that happened in public session. So, it's a matter of record. Going forward, I'm sure the director will speak to this later on in his comments. The authority is 100% committed to abating all of the issues at Stanley Homes. I'm sorry, are you saying there's nothing outstanding that needs to be done by March 14th? No, I said the tickets that were written have been addressed.
Okay, yeah, so
there obviously continue to be conditions that need to be addressed, and they're being addressed. And as I noted, sure, the director will touch on that in his comments later in the meeting. The 3-week deadline is not a deadline imposed by the court because the matters in the municipal court have been resolved. That is subject of discussions that will be ongoing and communications that will be ongoing between the authority's representatives and the city's representatives, to work together to get the work done as quickly as can be done.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Finch had told me that that anything on that, specific list that isn't resolved by the 14th, that the city would begin issuing a summons for each unit where those specific problems still are occurring. Is that not your understanding?
Well, I can't speak for Mr. Finch and what he may propose to do at this point or at some future point.
No, he made it sound like that was what the judge said, that after March 14th, then summonses could be issued per unit.
No, that would not be accurate. The judge did not address whether or not, in fact, made clear, I think, that in his view, if Director Finch and his department chose to issue tickets the day after we were in court, they would be free to do so. But again, because the licensing department and code enforcement have been working with us, they haven't issued tickets. And if 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever period of time down the line, the director determines that tickets need to be issued, that's entirely within his power to do that.
All right, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak public session? Is there anyone else that would like to speak in public session? Last call, is there anyone else that would like to speak in public session? All right, seeing none, we can move on.
Thank you, Chairwoman. The next item on the agenda, item 4, is approval of the minutes from the board's January 26th, 2023 meeting. May I have a motion and second?
Motion Tweedle.
Thank you.
Second.
Second Dorsey.
Thank you. It's open for discussion. And in the absence of any discussion, we can now have a roll call vote. Commissioner Devenish.
Abstain.
Commissioner Dorsey.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that a yes, Commissioner?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gabay.
Abstain.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle.
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
The minutes are approved by a vote of 4 in favor with 2 abstentions. Next on the agenda, item 5, reports of the board committees.
As I stated, the executive committee, we did meet to go over everything that was stated, so I do not want to repeat that. Mr. Manfredi, do you want to provide the report for the personnel committee meeting?
Yes, members of the board, the Personnel Committee has continued to meet and work on the executive director vetting and interview process in conjunction with the U.S. Department of HUD. It is now moving forward to a second round of interviews, and we'll be speaking again with the Department of HUD shortly. And then we hope to be in a position to make a full report to the board in the upcoming weeks.
Okay, Mr. Clark, anything you need to add?
Nope, not for committees, Chair.
Okay, and Commissioner Devenish. Okay.
Nothing else.
Thank you. We can move forward.
Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda, Treasurer's Report.
January Treasury Report has been distributed. If you have any question or concern, please feel free to ask me. Thanks.
Thank you, Abdul.
You're welcome.
Okay. No questions. We can move forward.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 7, report of the Secretary.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, I want to thank and recognize, I see there's a number of staff people on the call, and I appreciate Ms. Brock's statements and value them. I know everyone has been working very hard to get sort of the ball moving. We have an enormous amount of work ahead of us. We've made some progress, as Ms. Brock stated, but we are far from bringing things up to speed. And I know that there's some staff that have rolled their sleeves up, taken on some additional responsibilities. They're working, doing additional tasks. And I want to say I appreciate them and the work that they do, and I thank them. Their work really is bettering the authority. And I wanted to say personally that I thank them. With that being said, I do want to give an update before I go into my report. I wanted to have Jerry Velopi, who's our QPA purchasing agent, just give a brief breakdown on contractors. I know there was a question at the last board meeting, and you heard today from one of the staff people about a number of contractors that are working. But I did want to have Jerry just give a real brief summary sort of where we are on our contractors and where we are in addressing a lot of the emergency situations that are continue to be ongoing here at the authority.
Okay, very briefly, there's a significant number of contractors that have been retained on an emergency basis pursuant to the declaration of emergency by the City of Atlantic City and a declaration of a public exigency / emergency by the commissioners of the Atlantic City Housing Authority. And as such, we have brought in a multitude of vendors, small vendors, minority vendors, big vendors, large companies, small companies, and we're attacking this thing as aggressively as is humanly possible. There's been significant progress made in the last couple of weeks. We have rehabilitation taking place, mold remediation taking place, boiler renovation, rehabilitation has been completed. Heat has been working, hot water has been working, gas lines have been replaced, water lines have been replaced, appliances have been received and delivered and are either have been installed or in the process of being installed. We have maintenance, outside maintenance workers that we have brought in. We have had several meetings with executives. One meeting was held as recent as last week, which was sponsored by and assisted with the assistance of Stockton University, who brought in a lot of the labor unions and others. So there's a significant amount of work. I'm trying to be as brief as possible. And that's just as relates to Stanley. Now, of course, we're doing other work at other properties at the same time, all under this emergency declaration. And at the same time as that is taking place, we're aggressively moving forward with attempting to solicit bids. In fact, on tonight's agenda, you have several of them that we have solicited, and recommendation is to award. And you'll also be seeing more of them in the meetings to come. Does that cover it, John?
Yeah, that does. Thank you, Jerry. Chair, in addition to Jerry's report, I did want to inform the board that we have formed a task force for action. It includes, as Jerry mentioned, contractors, trade organizations, unions, as well as a number of stakeholders that is looking at not just Stanley, but the entire portfolio. As the board knows, the ACHA had a substantial amount of vacant units that occurred during the COVID downtime. Many of them remained vacant and have been vacant, only added to since then. And given the emergent need for those units, as well as obviously the fact that they should be turned around, we're working with the contractors to make sure that we're getting units being made available, and the task force is working on those actions, including heat, hot water, and a lot of the other health and safety items, security cameras, and so on. So a lot of, I'm hoping that people are seeing progress. I know up here, I'm meeting with tenants and hearing great things. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm still hearing their tenants have issues. We've asked them to be patient and continue to work with us in reporting problems before they become large issues. I think that's all I have to report, Chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board members.
Okay. Any questions from any of the commissioners?
No,
Commissioner Tweedle?
no, I don't have any.
Okay. Commissioner Dorsey, I see your hand raised.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everyone. Mr. Clark, not to put you on the spot, but if you have the information, if not, maybe the next meeting, DCA is helping us with the Section 8 stuff, right?
Yes.
Did we
Well,
get any?
I should say that they've offered to help. They haven't helped us yet.
But we advertised that we were opening that, correct?
Correct. We're soliciting and have solicited the tenants at Stanley for tenants being interested in receiving access to a voucher. We have an initial list of tenants that I will be coordinating and contacting the DCA back, but we're going to continue to solicit Stanley residents to see if there's an added interest. There seems to be some hesitation because of a concern of the previous value of the vouchers, or I should say previous vouchers. The Housing Authority at one point was funding those vouchers at 95% of the FMR. As you know, and as the board knows, they have now increased the payment standard to 120% of the FMR, which makes the vouchers a lot more feasible for use. So yeah, that coordination will be ongoing.
Any guesstimate on how many tenants actually applied?
None have applied. There's been an interest of about 170, I want to say, rough number. Families that have expressed an interest. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get a voucher and put it into place, but they've expressed an interest and are open to the idea of a possible voucher as a relocation mechanism.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you for your report. moving forward. Rick, you're on mute, but it would be agenda night item number 8. Rick, did you want to add anything? Are you just in the meeting? I'm sorry, number.
I assume we mean a different Rick.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot Rick. I'm sorry, Rick. Rick, go ahead. I'm sorry. Rick.
I mean, the redevelopment report for the Stanley Choice application and Busby Village was provided. Just as a note, last month we had a presentation on the choice plan for Stanley. We expect that draft plan to be submitted to HUD tomorrow. And then we need to get together with the committee to start finalizing it for the final submission at the end of June to HUD. I think we made a lot of progress in the last couple of months with that choice group with respect to what we're going to do. Busby continues to be rehabbed. It's the one thing that's good is that people at Stanley and units that were not that were in bad condition, we opened up units at Busby for them, which is allowed under the Section 8 admin plan. So we're taking care of that, and there will be a series of units at the end because we had vacated units for relocation or for temporary relocation. We're going to be able to move folks from Stanley into there at the end if they choose or want to move to those rehab units, which will not take care of all the issues at the Stanley, but we'll take care of some of it. Currently, there's about 70% of the rehab work at Busby is finished, but the last 30%, still needs to get done. We have less units to use for temporary relocation because we were required by the tax credit investors to fill some of those units, so it's a little slower than it had been. We expect to be finished by the end of May, middle of June with the rehab. They'll have to go back and do some punch out stuff on the exterior, but all the units should be occupiable by the middle of June and hopefully occupied by July or August completely at Busby.
Thanks, Rick. Just to piggyback on what Rick was saying, that becomes a timing component, Chair. So those units that he's talking about that may be available would be available over a period of time in the I would say spring, Rick, for lack of a better term. And again, we're looking at all options, including any vacant scattered site units that we have, as well as vacant units in our other developments as opportunity options to relocate Stanley members, including the voucher component. Our goal remains to consolidate down that area. If we can get it down to 2 villages or even 1 village, as I said, relocations do not happen overnight. It will be a season, if not seasons, until everything is comported. But to get it down to a more manageable 2 villages would be great, and 1 village would be fantastic.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Rick. Is there anything else?
Thanks, Rick. I won't forget you next time.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it, John?
Yeah, that's all I had, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, all right. We can move on to the resolutions.
Actually, I have one other item, Chair, item number 8, other business and communications.
That was, I'm sorry, I called that for Rick, but yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Is there anything else, Ms. Clark? For
No,
number
Chair.
8, anything else? Okay.
No. Thank you. We now have resolutions. There are 9 resolutions in all proposed for adoption. They range from 9628 through 9636 sequentially. The first of them, 9628, is a resolution of the authority ratifying and approving emergency actions and contracts required for services between January 24th, 2023 and February 21st, 2023. May I have a motion and second?
Motion, Marshall.
Second, Tweedle.
Thank you. That resolution is now open for discussion.
Seeing no questions, we could call the vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Devonish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Tweedle
Yes.
and Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That resolution passes 6 in favor, none opposed. Next, resolution 9629, a resolution of the authority approving and authorizing the award of a contract to Governance and Fiscal Affairs LLC for qualified purchasing agent services. May I have a motion and second?
Motion Tweedle. Second Johnson.
There we go.
Thank you. It's open for discussion.
Question. For this resolution, right? Isn't this is what Jerry is doing already? Or what's the price tag on here? Is this for QPA?
Chair,
You
or
mean?
Joe, if you like.
Commissioner, yeah, Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
The rates were the same. There was no change or increase in the cost. This is a continuation of the contract that was previously entered into, Commissioner, and the scope was expanded in light of the upcoming work that we have in March with HUD.
So what's
And
the
to
price
answer-
tag?
And to
What's the
answer your
price-
price tag question, it's a
Yeah.
not to exceed 260,000 over a 12-month period of time, but it's a fee for service contract, so it's based on fees.
But this is the cute stuff for Jerry, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, we could call a vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Devonish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That resolution has passed 6 in favor, none opposed. Next is resolution 9630, a resolution of the authority approving and authorizing the award of a contract to Manfredi and Pellecchio for special legal services. May I have a motion and second?
Motion Tweedle.
Second.
Thank you. It is open for discussion.
Yeah, I got a question. So for this special legal services, are we on the contract with Cooper Lieberson? Like what's this one? Is it something different or what?
There are 2 separate contracts. There's one for special counsel. There's one for general counsel. The general counsel one will be solicited very shortly. General counsel is Cooper Levinson, and it's our intention, hopefully, that Cooper Levinson will stay on board. Special counsel encompasses labor counsel and other related matters.
But don't we already have the labor council? Isn't that's what McFerrin is? So why we need a special? What's the special counsel is going to cover?
It is a continuation of that contract. That contract is expiring. So this is the renewal contract for the next year.
Eli. Commissioner Gabay.
I understand, Dorsey. I'm asking the question. I just want to need a clarification. That's what I'm asking, Dorsey.
No, I got no problem with that. I was just gonna, ask Mr. Manfredi if you could elaborate a little on the expansion of services. Because I believe we talked about this in an executive committee that you weren't able to make it to. So Mr. Manfredi can explain the expansion of services so that,
Or should we have Mr. Clark explain?
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes,
say, yeah,
yes, please.
he's the.
Yes,
he's-
please.
Yeah,
Thank
he's the
you.
respondent. So,
Yeah.
Commissioner Gabay, it's a good question. In the past, the Housing Authority had segregated out Labor Council, however, had tasked some additional assignments. So that expansion included additional tasks that weren't necessarily usually covered under a Labor Council, but they were tasked as a necessity. A special counsel is a broader component. It allows the respondent to be tasked with anything other than the other counsel's work. So you have general counsel, you would have hopefully we would have the same general counsel, Rick and Cooper Levinson. But if they were conflicted for some reason or couldn't represent the authority, your special counsel could now represent you without having to go out and do a whole nother solicitation for someone else. The special counsel is embedded in that to be labor counsel. So they will continue to have the labor counsel role, but they'll now be able to do other things and take on other tasks within that special counsel umbrella.
So what was the fee for the labor council before? Because I see not to exceed the amount of 250,000.
Correct, yeah, it's 250. I believe the previous fee for labor counsel was 150, if I'm not mistaken. Abdul, do you know, remember Abdul? Or Joe might remember the contract.
The rates are, if I recall, the rates are similar and it's based on an NTE. So the bills are, depending on that work, it's a fee for service. So whatever work that is performed is based on hourly rates that are contained within the bid or the solicitation, excuse me, in the proposal that was submitted. So we're capping it with a not to exceed amount. However, the bills, it's not an automatic. It's based upon actual work performed on the hourly rates that are included in the solicitation, similar to the contract that I have.
There was no increase in the hourly rate, Commissioner
Well,
Dubay.
I know it's not increased, but I just want to know what was the labor council like, how much you were paying, like what not to exceed, you said was 150,000. So for the extra work that we adding on, so we adding an extra 100,000, right? Not to exceed extra 100,000.
Yeah, correct. And again, it's a fee for service. So that's just a budgeted amount. It may not reach that amount. It may reach that amount. It's budgeted. So that is what the not to exceed would be as part of the contract.
So the special labor services is something that Cooper Labor Center cannot do for us. That's why we're pushing it out.
Yeah, correct, because they're your general counsel. So they're your general counsel representing you in general matters.
And instead of having general counsel, labor counsel, and special counsel, we combined the two.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Mhm. Okay, any other questions? We could call the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That resolution has passed, 6 in favor, none opposed. Next is Resolution 9631, a resolution of the authority authorizing the award of a blanket purchase agreement with Home Depot USA, Inc. for general maintenance supplies and materials under the state contract for AMPS 101 through 006. May I have a motion and second?
Motion, Marshall.
Second.
Thank you. It is now open for discussion.
Jerry, I just have one question. I know aren't there multiple state contracts with different names or just co-ops, or does this one have a name?
Yes, there's a multitude of them. There's Sourcewell, there's HD Supply, there's a whole group of them. We're utilizing, because HUD is frowned upon the use of cooperatives in general. So we're using general GSA contracts, General Service Administration. They're federal supply schedules. They're also known as FSCs. And under the federal rules, and even under the New Jersey rules, we are allowed now to use GSA contracts. So HD Supply, who this resolution pertains to, has a GSA contract, which is so helpful. In the last 30 days, we have used it extensively to expedite the processing of the routine supplies that are needed on a day-to-day basis by our property managers. So the overwhelming majority of purchase orders that I've issued in the last 30 days have been substantially to HD Supply. We were able to utilize them for appliances, for light bulbs, for maintenance items. I mean, if you go to Home Depot, you know they pretty much have everything. But this is through HD Supply, which was a subsidiary of Home Depot at one point. And it's different ownership at this point. But HD Supply has a GSA federal supply scheduled contract that we're utilizing. They also do have various state contracts, as you alluded to, Chair Marshall. And they include not only state contracts, but cooperative contracts like Sourcewell, NJPA, and a group of other ones.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add for the commissioners that state contracts are always great. I talk about this during the day. With state contracts, the state does all the work for you. We don't have to go out to RFP and bids and solicit quotes and all that other that cost, housing authorities money to do so, school districts, cities. So anytime for me, I see state contracts, I already know that they heavily vetted through the state, they're already approved, and it's one of the best routes to go. So I'm always in favor of this. Thank you, Jerry.
You're very welcome, and you've summed it up perfectly. We prefer to utilize as many state contracts and GSA schedules as are available because it shortens the timeline. As you know, to do a bid takes on average 60 to 90 days. You have
Yes.
the 10-day advertising period, the solicitation period, putting the specs together. All of that work is done if you go through the co-op. So yes, you summed it up perfectly. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Rick, we could call the vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Dorsey.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gabay,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That resolution has passed, 6 in favor, none opposed. Resolution 9632, a resolution of the authority authorizing the award of a blanket purchase agreement with HD Supply, Inc. for general maintenance supplies and materials under the federal supply schedule of the General Service Administration. May I have a motion and second?
So move.
Moved by Dorsey.
Second, Devenish.
Thank you. That is open for discussion.
Seeing none, we could call the vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That resolution has passed, 6 in favor, none opposed. Resolution 9633, a resolution of the authority awarding a contract for bed bug treatment services to,
Motion to,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
to Anchor Pest Control. May I have a motion and second?
So move.
Motion, Tweedle.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
Second by Dorsey.
Thank you. That is open for discussion.
Question, is this is the spec control situation? So the only bid that we got was from up North Jersey. We didn't have anything locally.
Okay, so we have no control over who submits a bid. Bid was advertised in 3 official newspapers that the Atlantic City Housing Authority has used in the past. Those newspapers carried the ad. We submitted the bid documents to vendors that you have used in the past and the vendor that we've been using on an emergent basis. We only received 1 bid. We have no control over that. 1 bid, and this is, by the way, not for pest control. This is for bed bugs only. We have another bid getting ready to go out for pest control. They're 2 different things. So this one is for bed bugs only. As you know, we've had significant issues, and this has been the emergency contractor that we've been utilizing on a day-to-day basis throughout the entire authority.
Just to also, Eli, so you know, we've budgeted $250,000 as a not to exceed amount for this. We have some substantial issues with
Infestation.
bed bugs.
So how are we gonna vote on this? The amount is not on here.
Well, no, that's just so again, this is a fee for service bid. So the fee for service amount is in there. I'm just telling you what we budgeted for and what will be in the contract.
In the solicitation, we put in the specifications, very comprehensive details, locations, buildings, various rates that they charge on an emergency call, on a regular routine call, on monthly maintenance, whether or not they have to, there's all associated costs. They're all broken down in the actual bid document.
I was just telling you what the budgeted amount would be and what the
Right.
amount of contract would be.
I have a question. Can we get monthly reports from them about how this is going along? Because, like I said, this is a serious problem and we've been having it for years. So I would like to get a report of how they're doing, you know, the improvement. And, you know, every month, can we get a report from them?
Yeah, Commissioner, yes, that's a great question. And I've been in touch with the owner of the company that we've been utilizing on the emergency basis. And there's been a significant improvement, if you will, in the actual treatment, because once they go in, only doing this particular company and this contract is for bed bugs, but they're also doing the pest control treatments as well. Our interim director has requested that they come back and do repeat treatments back to back. And not only are they doing that, they're doing monthly follow-ups with the bed bugs as well. Now, one of the things that we're doing, not to belabor the discussion, but we're treating the apartments both adjacent to the apartment with the infestation and both above and below, if it's in a building that has above and below. So there's multiple treatment, and of course it's very expensive, but we're doing it on a regular basis. And the way the reporting mechanism is set up, they're actually doing the treatment, invoicing us the same day, telling us what they found. Now, if they find that there's related issues, I don't want to be too graphic because we're at a public forum, but there have been related issues with the remains and cleanup and other related issues. So there's subsequent work that we're authorizing them to do in terms of the clean out that follows up after the treatments are working. You don't want to just leave the remains behind. So there's multiple steps, and each step of the way they give us a detailed invoice telling us what they did, when they did it. In some instances, they even send very graphic photographs.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
And if
so
we have
John-
any repeat units, maybe we could get that information to Judy Great Resident Services to see what other services are offered out there in the community for our residents. I know at one point we were, a lot of the conversation was other services and other things have taken up a lot of our time. Hopefully we can move back to that point, but maybe that's something we can also do. Commissioner Gabay?
Yes, John Jerry. So I'm sorry. So for this 250,000, not to see 250,000, it's just for the bad bug. That's it, right?
Correct. Yes.
Because this not include all the pet control stuff, but just for bad bugs, not to exceed 250,000.
That is correct. Well, once we do the solicitation for pest control, we're going to come back to the board with another resolution. Hopefully we'll get multiple bidders. I'll send it out again to the various bidders and hopefully they'll respond. I mean, we have one of the issues we're having just in general with getting bidders to participate was we follow up and ask, why didn't you submit a bid? And the answer has been the reasons that we've all heard: slow payment. We still are owed money. There's bills that are still, several months past due. So for those reasons, they don't want to tender a bid. And it's very difficult to find bidders. I'm not very happy that we're making recommendations with only one bidder tonight, but there's only one. And if you don't award it, we have to delay the process, resolicit, and then it's going to delay it even further.
We, Commissioner Gabay, we always want more than one bid. And what sometimes is done, we'll send emails out asking other companies to submit a bid. And we can always print those emails and have them. I know with the school district, often that's one of the questions when the auditors come in, they will ask how many bids you received. well, they get all the information and now they don't even ask because we just give them everything. When we do receive one bid, we'll show emails where we did email other vendors asking them to submit a bid. And again, this is a bid. If we don't need them, we don't pay anything. And when we do need them, if we need them next month, they will submit a quote. It's on-call services. They would submit a quote and perform a service that we need. But we have to have a not to exceed amount because we have a budget.
We also published it in local newspapers and one of distribution throughout the state. So, and we also published it in a multilingual paper as well. So, or a bilingual, excuse me. So as a result, you have, the public has the ability to see it's available, that it's there. And if they request it, we send it to them.
All right,
And
just moving forward, I would just like for us to have the price stuff on the resolution, just because in the past where we have the price not to exceed X amount, if we can have that next time moving forward, just, because I didn't see no price tag on there, but I heard there's 250,000. So if we vote on the stuff, and I just have the price tag on the moving forward.
Yes, Eli, the packet that the executive committee received on Friday, that was in that packet that Beth emailed us, and then Beth texted us and said that she will have that information delivered to us. So that it was in there. I did have a conversation with Mr. Clark about it, and typically it is on there with the timing of receiving everything on Friday and the resolutions getting repaired. There was not enough time, but we definitely received the information on Friday.
And Chair, I'll be happy to state the amounts for the two remaining, as we just did.
Okay,
So
great.
everyone knows.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other questions, we could call the vote.
Thank you, Chair.
Can I have a question?
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Dorsey?
Did we already have a motion for approve?
To approve?
We had
Yes.
we had a motion already.
Well,
I was gonna ask if we could make a motion to edit the text to include the amounts in these, but that's out of order if we already have a motion to approve as is, so.
If I may, that's a motion that if the board wishes could be brought up later in the meeting as a separate freestanding motion.
Thank
And
you.
it's definitely, yeah, that's fine. And it's in the record. And when we receive our minutes, Beth Ann will make sure that what Mr. Clark said is in the minutes, that it's a not to exceed amount of 250,000.
Thank you.
If we're ready for a vote,
Yep, we call the
Thank you.
vote.
Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Abstain.
thank you. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
That resolution passes 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. Resolution 9634, a resolution of the authority awarding a contract for landscape maintenance to Scenic View Landscaping. May I have a motion and second?
Motion Tweedle.
Second Johnson.
Thank you. That resolution is open for discussion.
Chair? Just a
Yes, Ms.
just a
Clark.
point of order. So landscaping has a not to exceed amount of $200,000 budget.
And also, if I might just inject that similar story, we advertise, we have specific details located throughout the bid solicitation of the properties, the number of cuts, when to come, the cleanups. It's all of the details that are there. It was advertised exactly the same way, 3 papers. We sent it to various entities and whoever requested it, and we only had 1 respondent.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, call the vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Abstain.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That resolution passes 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. Resolution 9635, a resolution of the authority awarding a contract for boiler preventative maintenance and repairs to Whitfield Schneider Enterprises. Can I have a motion and second?
Motion Tweedle.
I have motion,
second.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Okay.
and a second.
Second, Marshall.
Thank you. That is open for discussion.
And this resolution also has a not to exceed. I believe it's 175. And I would also tell you same thing. Advertised in the 3 papers, sent out to a vendor that you guys have used in the past. It was also in the newspapers, as I just said. We had 1 respondent. And I also, it's much more than, I know there was a significant amount of work done at Stanley Villages, but this is for site-wide. We have a bunch of Lochnavar units, other units, so it's agency-wide.
Okay. Mr. Clark or Jerry, I don't know if you want to touch on briefly how I don't want to go into previous years with the boilers and being down and contractors, but could you just briefly touch on the work that was done in October, November, December with this contractor coming in, staying weekends here during holidays, Thanksgiving that weekend, being here on Sundays and really doing a lot of the repairs briefly, please?
I'll be brief and then I'll let John follow up. I know sometimes I have a tendency of talking too much. But what I'll tell you is you've summarized it in your question. We've had an emergency contractor on site on the holidays, on the weekends. There have been years and years and years of neglect, and that is an understatement. And we had no heat. And we had residents actually report that they haven't had heat for a number of years. And I'm happy to report as of today that they all have heat. We have intermittent issues. And of course, there are issues where if you're too far away, Mr. Clark and myself actually toured the Stanley Villages last week before, and we went to the boiler room, and it's a long drive by car to the farthest apartment. And those pipes some of them are exposed above ground, underground, in crawl spaces, et cetera. One of the principals of the company that was there literally has spent days, nights, evenings, weekends addressing. One of our commissioners was overseeing some of the work and watching some of the work that went on in some of these boilers. And it's really important to note, these boilers are not what you generally would think a boiler is. When you go into the basement of your home and you have a box and it's about 3 feet by 2 feet, that's not what this is. These things are massive, huge engines and motors and boilers that take up the size of a whole room. They're massive, and there's many of them, 3 of them. So you've got a lot of work that had to be done. And when they were opened up, there was no maintenance for years, and there was lack of service and a whole multitude of related issues. John, I'll defer to you to add.
Yeah, I would only add in that what's occurred between October and now, and even continues to occur, is 15 years of work that could have, would have, and should have been done. And not just at Stanley, every single one of our sites did not have the level of preventative maintenance, repairs, or other activity, purging of systems, changing of tubes. I mean, go right down the line. Anything relating to the actual operation of a boiler had been either foregone or because of maybe, either neglect or funding or whatever reason. I'm not, none of us were here, myself and Jerry particularly, but just years of just not going through and doing what should have been done. This contract here puts in place that preventative process that would now occur, going forward for the next 12 months, but also would historically have been done on a regular basis. When you shut off a system, it should be, brought down a certain way. Prior to October or November, when it starts getting really cold, there's a lot of stuff that has to get done on a gigantic boiler. So you usually start that work sometime in April, early April. We came on board. A lot of it hadn't been done by the time we got, the systems up and running. A lot of the previous work just hadn't been done. So I think we're caught up now, and we're dealing with what you would call usual ongoing issues of systems that are decades old. And those are underground pipe breaks and service lines coming out of the boiler. We're not necessarily at the point where we were, earlier in October and November, even December, of, systems not working. So the systems now, I think, are at a level where they're functioning, but it's an ongoing process, particularly with Stanley, because as I continue to say, Stanley's issues aren't necessarily, in the boiler room as much as they are underground, in crawl spaces, in walls, and in service lines, sanitary, lines, gas lines, hot water, cold water, those things. So
the only thing I would add to what John is saying is that this is a fee-for-service contract, and it's only billed for the actual hours and time and materials that are utilized in there. We had a couple of line items in there for quarterly and annual maintenance issues, and we're looking at a clerk of the works type individual that might offset those significant costs. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of our commissioners who's been most helpful throughout the emergencies with the boilers and physically going on site several times, late at night, middle of the night, early in the afternoon. So Commissioner Dorsey, I want to publicly acknowledge and thank you for that.
I echo that statement, by the way, too, Chair, and also yourself, Chair. I introduced you to the boilers, but I know you've been there more times now than you probably thought you'd ever in your entire life.
Yes.
I encourage any commissioners that have not been to that boiler room, particularly Stanley, as Jerry said. You have 3 big blue boilers servicing over 400 units spread across a campus of, a dozen acres. And it is substantial to see these and stand next to them when they fire up. If you've been in a building or a high rise and you're like, oh, I know what a boiler is, and yeah, okay, these make those things look like babies. And these are gigantic jet engines, literally. And they take a lot of they need a lot of care. And this contract provides that preventative sort of care, what should be going every year to those systems, not just at Stanley, but at every one of the sites. Again, like Jerry just said, I applaud the work of the previous contractor, the contractors, I should say, and subs. We had contractors working on a 24-hour schedule overnight, literally for days with an S at a time. So what they've been able to accomplish to date is Herculean. And again, I don't want to stress this. I can't stress this more. We have a huge amount of work still left to do. A huge amount.
Mhm. Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you, John and Jerry. I know commissioners is sort of redundant to keep hearing about the boilers, but as Commissioner Johnson, my kindergarten teacher, would say, redundancy is always good because that's how students learn. So we're all going to be experts with boilers. I am at this point. I didn't expect it, but I'm an expert now. Maybe I'll get down there with some tools or something. All right, we can call the vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Abstain.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That resolution has passed, 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. And the final resolution on the agenda, number 9636, a resolution of the authority ratifying and approving the attached pre-check rating report and disbursements of bills thereof. May I have a motion and second?
Motion Tweedle.
Dorsey.
Thank you. That is open for discussion.
Seeing no questions, we could call the vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Devonish,
Abstain.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That resolution passes 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. Next item, item number 10 on the agenda, the good and welfare.
Motion Math, anything you would like to add tonight? Is he still on? Yeah, you're on mute.
Hit me. Okay, I'm gonna say it a second time. No, I have nothing, nothing to add. I'm still working to try to get something set up so we can do homeownership classes in future. I've also made it clear to some people over at the ACHA that if they have others in the meantime who are interested in homeownership, they're welcome to call me and I'll start working them through the process, even though we don't have an organized class yet. So feel free to, my number, I'll put it in the chat right now for anybody who wants to reach out to me. It's 609. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I'm incompetent with the computer. 609-790-2729. And the only time I'm not available is I observe the Jewish Sabbath. So outside of that, I'm pretty easy to reach.
All right. Thank you
So
for
thank
that.
you.
Hopefully, yeah, we could definitely get back to home ownership classes. And a lot of our residents are great residents, 80+% of them. They've been on jobs in the casinos a long time. So hopefully more opportunities are open up for them.
Would love to.
And I
would love
just want to.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Excuse me, Mr.
Sorry.
Sure.
Sorry.
Sure.
I just want to say too as well. I know that we have what's it called Ivy resigned. I would love for the board or because the last board meeting we didn't give her like any type of recognition or we didn't give her quota for the work that she have done with the agency, and I would just love for us to send something to her, like whatever it is in writing, telling her thank you for her services. She's been here through some of the tough time and stuff that I would love for us to be able to recognize her and appreciate her effort and what she did for the agency before she left. We didn't have a chance to say that last board meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else? Any other commissioners? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the vote for adjournment.
Sorry, I'd like to make a motion to add the not to exceed numbers to all resolutions.
Okay.
So
Chair, you need a second of that motion. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
I understand that the motion would simply be that where we have a proposed not to exceed amount for a contract, that be included in the body of the resolution.
Second.
All right.
Second. You
Second.
abstain.
Second.
Thanks. That's motion, Commissioner Dorsey, second, Commissioner Gabay. And that's open for discussion.
Seeing none, I guess we're all okay with that. That's typically how it's there. It was just the timing. So, and we also have it on the record.
All right. Should we do a roll call vote to formalize it? Or we
Yes.
simply vote by acclamation, either way.
Aye.
So we'll go with the roll call. Commissioner Devonish,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gabay,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tweedle,
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion has passed, 6 in favor, none opposed. I understand there is no executive session planned for tonight.
That is correct. We are looking to have a special meeting later. Beth Ann will reach out to all the commissioners with a date that we can have a special meeting. Mr. Clark, you okay with that?
Yeah, we're working on that. It looks like it might be the week of the 9th, but we'll get you more details.
Okay, great. All right, that's
With
it.
that, we
Motion to adjourn?
can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion, Tweedle.
Second Johnson.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion has passed and we are adjourned.
Good night.
Good
night.